Namaste. Welcome to the next edition of Dharma Tales. Let's debate. I'm going to share one of my favorite stories. How would Dharma himself respond when it comes to the situation of having to deal with a very critical situation where all his skills will be tested? At the end of the 12-year exile of 12 years, and one more year of Ajnatavasa, or the incognito mode, has to start. The Pandavas are sitting and talking in the edge of a forest. And then a Brahmin priest comes there and then he requests them for some help. He said there was an antler which was going around here and it had taken off the 2 bricks of wood that I have with which I have to create fire. And it is time for me to offer some puja and I need those 2 bricks. Will you be able to help? Being the king that he is automatically forced to accept that request from that priest, Brahmin priest. And then the Pandavas set out into the forest to find the antler and get back those 2 bricks of wood. And as they go along, and it takes a lot of time, and by the time they get completely tired, they are all thirsty. And as they settle down somewhere, Yudhishthira tells Nakula, please go and get some water from somewhere. And then as they set out, Nakula sets out, he goes into the forest and then he finds a pond. And while he goes to get water from the pond, there is one stork which is there in the middle of the pond. It just tells, oh Nakula, please answer my question before you can take water from this pond. Else you will be dead. He just laughs it off and thinks that what can a bird do to me? And then he goes and gets water and then drinks it himself before he takes water to his brothers. And then he falls dead because the water is poisonous. And not seeing Nakula turn up, Dharma sends his twin brother Sagadev next. Sagadev comes there and he finds that his brother is dead. He doesn't know what has caused it. He wants to take the water and then he meets with the same fate as his brother does because he refuses to answer the questions that the stork wanted to pose. And then Arjun comes and then Bhim comes. All of them fall dead because they all refuse to answer and they think that their arrogance and pride will take them through. And not seeing any of the brothers come, then finally Dharma himself comes there and then he finds that his brothers are already fallen dead. And he doesn't know what has happened and suddenly finds there is one stork there and the stork starts talking to him. And the moment he starts talking, Dharma immediately feels that the stork should be holding some clue to the death of his brothers. And then the stork tells him, oh Dharma, please answer my questions before we can have the water. And then Dharma immediately agrees. And then the stork now takes the form of a Yaksha and then starts asking him questions. One of the most famous questions, 125 questions is what they say that the stork asked, which became the Yaksha, and it became part of Mahabharata called as the Yaksha Prashna. It contains a series of questions which contains answers to many philosophies, concepts, Dharmic values. And if you're able to look up that net and download, it's one of the fascinating set of questions through which you can understand the prism of Dharma. How a king has to look at Dharma by itself and how a praja or a subject has to work. And everything is right there, right up to value systems, God, approaching. You can look at the entire range. And as the discourse goes on, the Yaksha is very, very happy and then finally asks one of the famous questions before he says, I'm going to ask you a question and then it will end here. And then the Yaksha asks Dharma, what is the strangest thing in this world? And then Yudhishthira answers, the most strangest thing, O Yaksha, is that people around us are falling dead all the time, and yet man thinks that he's going to live eternally. And with this, now Yaksha becomes very happy with the answer. And then now he says, my hands are bound, Dharma, I can only resurrect one of your brothers out of these 4 who are lying dead here. Please make a choice. And then Dharma thinks for a few seconds and then he says, please give me back Nakul. And actually, the Yaksha is surprised. He says, the war is about to likely to happen when you go back. And I thought you would have needed either Bhim or Arjun because they are the most strongest of the four brothers that you have. Would you mind telling me what made you choose Nakula? He says, it is the name for which I stand for Dharma, which made me choose. Because I am born for Kunti Devi, and so are Bhim and Arjun. Whereas the other two children are born to my stepmother, Matri. And when I go back, there has to be balance in the family. If I go back and then my mother has to ask what happened to the other two brothers, I will not be able to answer. So from my side, I am alive. So from the side of my stepmother, one of them has to be alive. And to balance Dharma, I chose Nakula. And then with this, Yaksha becomes so happy with the answer. He now turns into the Lord of Death, or Dharma as it's called, who is nothing but the father of Dharma himself, Yudhishthira. And he says, I'm so happy with the choice you have made because you have exactly established what Dharma stands for. And then with this, he gives back all the brothers. And he also blesses the Pandavas, saying that in this 1 year of incognito mode, I will give you protection to ensure that you will not be found by Kauravas. But because had they been seen in that 1 year, they had to go through the process of again that 12 years plus 1 year all over again. The story sort of ends here. In fact, Dharma says that I was the one who came as the antler and picked up the bricks because I wanted you to come here and go through this process. And Pandavas go back happily. But this one single story gives us a tremendous amount of insights into what Dharma is. When you as a brother, as a family member, or as a corporate executive, or as a person heading a nation, or as a person running political parties or any religious outfits, what is the Dharma that you're going to stand for? What did actually Dharma stand here for? What are the choices he had? How in these tough situations, in spite of whatever he was going through, he chose what apparently was the middle path. In spite of the urge to fight, in spite of him having all the power, he obeyed when he went into the territory of the stork and respected it for what it is and started answering questions. Like this, there are many several dimensions of questions that are likely to come up in terms of administration, in terms of leadership, in terms of values that one has to uphold. And there was a series of values and Dharma that Yudhishthira displayed, which is what is essential for holding the fabric of Dharma together. Please choose the comment box below the video that you are watching in whichever social media platform. Please voice your opinion. What are the Dharmic values that Dharma teaches us through this episode, and how we can integrate such values in our life, through which a personal change and a change in the society which takes us towards high values would come about. Let's introspect together. Dharma tales, let's debate. Till we see again, thank you.